Previously, Li Chejing entered Qingchi Sect while the Li family began expanding its influence across the surrounding villages. Now, new cultivators emerge, a hidden spiritual treasure is discovered, and a deadly serpent guards the mountain. But beyond the village, rival sects and hostile clans are already closing in. Welcome to Episode 4. Your eldest senior brother possessed extraordinary talent. Last year, he reached the peak of the Qi refining realm. Then he entered seclusion to break through to Foundation establishment, and failed. His body and Dao were both destroyed. Xianbai's answer was clearly far beyond anything Li Qiuyang had expected. A soft sound escaped him, and he stared at his master with a complicated expression. As for your other senior brothers and sisters, some died beneath the claws of demon beasts, some fell while fighting over treasures, and others perished to bottlenecks or heart demons. They are all buried on this peak. Come with me and pay your respects. Seeing the sorrow on Li Qiuyang's face, Xianbai let out a cold laugh. The path of cultivation has always been a path of struggle. You must fight, and you must fight to win, to seize what you need. If you fail, you die. What is there to mourn? You, Li Qiuyang, must fight. If you cannot prevail, your body and Dao will perish. Your Li family must fight. If your clan loses, it will be exterminated. My Qinghui Peak must fight as well. If we lose, our lineage will be severed. This world has always belonged to the strong, where the great devour the small. Why bother pretending otherwise? Li Tongya formed a hand seal and watched fine spirit rain drift down across the black soil. His face was pale as he thought. The spirit rain art recorded in this spirit plant manual consumes far too much power. Even after forming the radiant Lure chakra, I can barely cast it once, yet these spirit plants require care every day. We truly need more cultivators. Li Xiangping and Li Tongya had already inspected the spirit fields of the surrounding villages. They were pitifully small. The spirit fields around Li Jing Village were especially fragmented, though fortunately the largest plot could still hold 10 white origin fruit trees. Li Tongya therefore ordered a small courtyard built at the foot of the mountain on what had once been wasteland. He cultivated and tended the plants there, while servants regularly delivered food and supplies. It was quiet enough to be comfortable. Li Xiangping chose a spirit field in Jingjiang Village and planted spirit grain there. The villagers came to bow outside his courtyard every day, a sight that was both absurd and amusing. Because Li Tongya had yet to form the celestial world chakra, he had to sit with his eyes closed and regulate his breathing for nearly half an hour before his mana recovered. By then, Li Qiuyang had already been waiting outside with several men for quite some time. The wooden door creaked open. Li Qiuyang hurriedly bowed. All the children from the villages have arrived, Brother Tongya. Shall we leave now? Li Tongya gave a quiet reply, and under the eager smiles of Li Qiuyang and the sturdy young men behind him, slowly made his way toward the entrance of the village. Iced beneath the great scholar tree at the entrance of the village, its branches heavy with leaves, the delegations from every settlement had already gathered. Each group had been led there by a steward appointed by the Li family, accompanied by several respected villagers, and followed by clusters of children of different ages. The stewards were comparatively relaxed, standing in pairs beneath the tree and speaking in low voices. The ordinary villagers were far more anxious and restrained. None dared to chatter, and they remained silently in place. Their unease spread to the children, who sat obediently on the ground without making a sound. Chen Erniu had been riding high in recent days, so delighted that he could barely sleep at night. His ancestors had bent their backs over the fields for generations, and now at last, he was living like a man of standing. When he learned that he had been chosen to administer Lichuan Pass, Chen Erniu had knelt outside the Li residence and struck his forehead against the ground 9 times. Weeping openly, he swore to Old Master Li, "Since the Old Master has placed his trust in me, I, Erniu, will make certain every man in Lichuan Pass obeys without question." He had once fled disaster and been taken in by the Li family. They had helped him marry, purchase land, and even paid for his wife's treatment when she fell ill. Those debts of gratitude had bound Chen Erniu firmly to the Li family's chariot, and with such overwhelming benefits laid before him, Chen Erniu would have eaten dog filth if that was what it took. The only difficulty was Xu Wenshan. The two men had disliked each other since their days as tenant farmers, and the villages under their control now frequently clashed. Only Ren Ping'an stood above the rivalry among the 3 village administrators, calmly managing his own settlement, without becoming entangled in their quarrels.
Steward Chen?
An anxious voice suddenly sounded beside him. Chen Erniu turned and saw Chen Changhu, an elder from Lichuan Pass. Most of the people in Lichuan Pass bore the surname Chen. Chen Changhu was the oldest man in the clan, and enjoyed great prestige in the village, so the others had chosen him to lead their delegation. Will the immortals of the Li family truly accept children from our Chen clan? The old man, normally composed and dignified, now gazed toward the village entrance with undisguised unease. They said it depends on immortal fortune. Some damn thing called a spiritual orifice. Any child between 7 and 13 who possesses one will be accepted by the Li family, no matter whether they come from your Chen clan or anywhere else. As Chen Changhu nodded repeatedly, Chen Ernu curled his lip. In truth, jealousy burned inside him. One of his own sons was already too old and had missed the chance, while the other was still too young to be tested. The Immortal has arrived. The moment Li Tongya appeared at the village entrance, Chen Ernu hurried forward with a broad smile, thinking enviously, which of these children will receive immortal fortune today? Li Tongya returned a slight cupped fist salute, smiled at Chen Ernu, then turned to Li Yesheng. Begin. A wooden platform had already been erected beside the scholar tree. Li Tongya took his seat, and the names were called from below. Li Chuan Pass, Chen Lifu, a member of the Chen clan, led a trembling child onto the platform. Li Tongya placed one hand on the child's shoulder and sent mana through the boy's meridians. After a single circuit, he withdrew his hand and waved them away. Go down. Neither dared to answer. They hurried off the platform, and disappointment flashed through Chen Changhu's eyes. Next, before long, every child from Li Chuan Pass had been examined. Chen Changhu's expression had grown ugly, and he looked toward Chen Ernu almost pleadingly. Chen Ernu rolled his eyes and spread his hands, making it clear that there was nothing he could do. The late autumn air was clear and cool. Even with so many people gathered at midday, the shade beneath the great tree remained refreshing. Yet the villagers were drenched in sweat. Seeing that not a single child from Li Chuan Pass possessed immortal fortune, the people from the other settlements grew increasingly nervous. Li Tongya had expected this. Only one person in 1,000 possessed a spiritual orifice. If a single child emerged from all 4 villages, the effort would already have been worthwhile. 2 would be an excellent harvest. Jing Village, Liu Rushuan. A girl of 13 or 14 stepped onto the platform. Her brows were delicately curved and her eyes bright, but she bit her lip timidly. 14 was already at the very edge of the stated age limit. Li Tongya shook his head helplessly, but chose not to make an issue of it. He placed his left hand on her shoulder and circulated mana through her body. After it traveled once through her meridians, he gave a soft sound of surprise. The members of the Liu clan waiting below immediately tensed. Within the girl's Qihai acupoint, currents surged without pause. A clear, translucent aperture pulsed continuously as though breathing by itself. Not bad. Li Tongya opened his eyes and smiled gently at her. Stand behind me. Liu Rushuan stared blankly into his eyes, as though the sudden joy had left her unable to think. Only after several breaths did she recover and step behind him, her face glowing with happiness. The people of Jing Village immediately stirred with excitement. They wanted to cheer, but with Li Tongya present, none dared make a scene. The delegation from Li Chuan Pass sank into gloom, while those from the 2 remaining villages grew even more apprehensive. Soon, every child from Jing Village and Li Dao Pass had been tested. As expected, no one else possessed a spiritual orifice. Li Jing Village, Li Tongya's gaze swept over the children below. Li Xuanshuan was naturally absent. The boy was only 3 years old and his body had not yet fully developed. They would have to wait until he was at least 7 before determining whether he possessed a spiritual orifice. At last, it was the turn of the children from their own village. Li Yesheng raised his brows and began calling names. If Brother Tongya hadn't already examined me, I would give anything to climb onto that platform and try. Even as he called the names loudly, Li Yesheng could not suppress the bitter thought. Li Qiuyang. Below the platform, the boy's father, Ye Chengfu, went rigid. His legs nearly gave way, and his eyes fixed upon the 8 or 9-year-old child climbing the steps. He repeatedly tried to reassure himself. Our Yi clan was once a branch of the Li family. Surely some trace of immortal fortune must remain in our blood. The moment Li Tongya placed a hand on Ye Qiuyang's shoulder, Ye Chengfu closed his eyes and simply collapsed onto the ground, sitting there in a daze as he listened. Good! Another one! And he carries the blood of my Li clan. Hearing Li Tongya's warm voice from the platform, Ye Chengfu sprang to his feet as if struck by lightning. He stared at the flustered boy above, so excited that he wanted to throw back his head and laugh 3 times at the heavens. You bear the surname Yi. Who is your father? Li Tongya asked with a smile. Yi Chengfu. The boy glanced at his father, who was gesturing wildly below, and answered timidly. Congratulations, Brother Chengfu. Following the child's gaze, Li Tongya smiled in greeting. Many thanks, Immortal Master. Yi Chengfu did not dare act presumptuously. He answered with great courtesy, though he could not stop the corners of his mouth from rising. Trembling with excitement, he cupped his hands and bowed. Li Tongya smiled and shook his head. After examining the remaining children, he raised his voice. The rest have no immortal affinity. The village stewards will remain. Everyone else may return home. A murmur swept through the crowd, accompanied by countless sighs of regret. After a long period of commotion, the delegations began departing for their respective villages. Li Yesheng stepped forward beside Li Tongya. Stewards of the 3 villages, follow me to the Li residence so we may verify the land deeds and account books. Chen Erniu and the other 2 men agreed in unison and followed him away. Li Tongya descended from the platform and looked toward the overwhelmed Yi Chengfu and the Liu clan elder from Jingjiang Village. You may come with me. Ye Chengfu nodded hurriedly. As he walked, he drew his son tightly into his arms, his eyes filling with tears. Good, good, he whispered. Ye Chengfu and Li Qiuyang entered the ancestral hall, offered incense, then knelt and kowtowed with solemn respect. Under the eyes of the entire Li family, they formally returned to the clan of their ancestors. Clan chief. As the eldest member of the Li family's main line, Li Mutian naturally occupied the highest seat in the courtyard. According to custom, father and son first offered him tea, then knelt before him and listened respectfully. Qiuyang is also a descendant of my Li clan. Since he possesses a spiritual orifice, he must naturally be taught a cultivation method. Li Mutian accepted a wooden tablet and continued in a mild voice. The clan grants you the Azure Origin Chakra Nourishment Method. You must cultivate diligently, honor your ancestors and the Tao, live in harmony with your kin, and never reveal the secrets of our immortal arts, lest outsiders cast greedy eyes upon them. The youth who was now Li Qiuyang bowed deeply, determination shining in his eyes. I will remember the clan chief's teachings. You will follow Xiangping to the spirit field in Jingjiang Village. Cultivate under his guidance. Until you have formed the profound Seneri chakra, you are not permitted to leave the courtyard. Li Mutian nodded as he made the arrangement. Yes, Li Qiuyang rose and accepted the wooden tablet from his hands. For all that he had obtained immortal fortune, he was still only 8 or 9 years old. When he turned toward his father, emotion tightened his throat. Father, then your son will go cultivate with the main family. Good, good. Do not worry about anything at home. Tomorrow I will carry your clothes and belongings to the Jingjiang courtyard. You only need to cultivate in peace. Cultivate well, and do not concern yourself with anything else. Li Chengfu nodded again and again, his eyes red as he gave the boy his instructions. Come, Qiuyang. Li Xiangping smiled, took Li Cheng by the hand, nodded to his father, and led the boy outside. Chengfu, you should return and begin packing as well. In a few days, move your household to the rear of the village. Li Mutian coughed once and spoke with a slight frown. Li Chengfu hurriedly agreed. Seeing the expressions on the faces of the 2 men, he quickly took his leave. Only after Li Chengfu had disappeared into the distance did Li Mutian speak in a low voice. For now, take the Liu girl with you and teach her at the Li Jing courtyard. If she one day forms the profound Seneri chakra, do not immediately pass any spells on to her. Father's arrangement is excellent. Li Tongya said in surprise and admiration. A member of the Li family will oversee the Liu clan's Jingjiang village, while the Liu clan's cultivator will be brought to Li Jing and kept under observation. That will prevent them from growing beyond our control. It is still far too early to worry. Li Mutian narrowed his eyes and took a slow sip of tea. These children do not have the aid of the Dharma mirror, nor do they possess cultivation resources or pills. Will it take them a year to form the profound Seneri chakra? Far longer than that, Li Tongya shook his head and explained. I have studied the Azure Origin Chakra Nourishment Method. The mana it produces is likely thin and weak, and there are many points where its circulation becomes sluggish. Forming the profound Seneri chakra should take more than 3 years. Then that is enough. If their art produces weaker results and their cultivation is slower, there is no true need to fear them. This is merely an extra precaution. Father is right. Li Tongya nodded and gently set down his teacup. Seeing Li Mutian staring into the distance as though lost in thought, he could only smile bitterly, cup his hands, and withdraw. Li Mutian remained alone in the highest seat of the courtyard. A long while passed before he released a quiet sigh. Still not ruthless enough? Xu Wenshan had governed Lidao Pass for more than 4 months. His old followers had all been given positions, and the village men had been brought firmly under control. He had once managed a merchant caravan. Governing a small village was hardly a challenge for someone like him. Lidao Pass contained a mixture of surnames and factions, making its affairs complicated, but it also meant that no powerful clan could restrain him. Xu Wenshan needed only a month to grasp every matter, great and small, within the settlement. Once everything was running smoothly, however, idleness set in. He began searching for a way to earn merit before the main family, and surpass that fellow Chen Erniu. Merely sitting in the village, collecting rent and keeping accounts, was a waste of Xu Wenshan's talents. He listlessly turned over the map in his hands and stared at it in thought. As for Chen Erniu, the 2 villages had long argued over fields and water sources. Xu Wenshan was more than happy to continue the feud. By now, whenever the people of Lidao Pass mentioned Chen Erniu's Lichuan Pass, they ground their teeth and wished they could punch the man themselves. People only cling tightly to me when they have an enemy, Xu Wenshan thought smugly. When he had managed merchant caravans, he had never liked his subordinates becoming too close to one another. A little conflict was always useful. Xu Wenshan absolutely refused to believe that the Li family had no eyes and ears in the villages. Judging others by himself, he naturally made a show of competing with Chen Erniu, so their masters would have something reassuring to watch. I may have beaten that man a little too thoroughly, he muttered to himself and returned his attention to the map. His gaze followed the crooked line representing the Guli Road and a sudden idea came to him. Why not return to my old trade? He slapped his thigh in delight. These villages are trapped along the Guli Road. Goods cannot circulate, and every household farms and weaves only enough for itself. I, Xu Wenshan, spent more than 20 years traveling the roads. Why shouldn't I make this route work as well? The main family has already entered the immortal path. Ordinary grain and cloth mean little to them. Better to open the mountain roads and sell the village's surplus. Perhaps we can trade it for jade, strange treasures, or other spiritual objects. Those are what the family truly needs. Once the thought took hold, Xu Wenshan could no longer remain seated. He summoned the followers who had fled with him years before and explained his plan. They immediately clapped their hands in approval. I will go and present the matter to the main family. Laughing heartily, Xu Wenshan led his men out. A fruit? Li Xiangping raised his head and looked doubtfully at Li Qiuyang, who sat cross-legged before him. Yes, Li Qiuyang appeared nervous. His hands tightly gripped the hem of his robe. After only a few nights of cultivation, he had already condensed a strand of embryonic, breathing spiritual qi. The speed differed so greatly from what the manual described that he feared he had practiced incorrectly, so he hurried to Li Xiangping with the cultivation art in hand. When Li Xiangping heard how quickly the boy had progressed, he was so startled that he took out the Azure Origin Chakra Nourishment Method and read it again and again, studying every passage with care. Only after enough time had passed to drink a cup of tea did he look up and ask whether Li Qiuyang had ever eaten anything unusual. After thinking carefully, Li Qiuyang suddenly recalled something important. A few years ago, my friends insisted on testing our courage. We agreed to climb the rear mountain together, but in the end I was the only one who actually went. I never saw any of them along the path, and before I knew it, I was lost. I kept walking until I found a small emerald green tree. 6 or 7 crimson fruits hung from its branches. They were so red and ripe that they looked incredibly delicious. I truly couldn't resist. It was as though some spirit had clouded my mind. I plucked one and ate it. After that, I wandered down the mountain in a daze. When I returned home, I slept for 3 full days. Father was so frightened that he brought all kinds of people to examine me. Li Xiangping fell silent after hearing the story. A moment later, he patted Li Qiuyang on the shoulder. At this rate, you should be able to form the profound Sanary chakra in a little over a year. Hope flooded Li Qiuyang's face, but Li Xiangping continued. There is still one important matter. The boy froze and looked up at him. Take us into the mountain and find that spirit plant. Li Tongya returned to the small courtyard in Li Jing Village. The moment he crossed the stone threshold, he saw Liu Rushuan sitting obediently inside, her chin resting in both hands as she absent-mindedly counted the young plants in the spirit field. When she noticed him entering, Liu Rushuan started and sprang up from the stone bench. Lowering her eyes, she spoke timidly. Immortal Master, there is no need to be so formal. Li Tongya waved a hand. His gaze briefly passed over her pretty face before he smiled. I am only 6 or 7 years older than you. You may simply call me Tongya. Realizing that he was easy to speak with, Liu Rushuan relaxed considerably. After a moment's thought, she said, Brother Tongya. Li Tongya nodded, walked into the house and took a wooden tablet from the shelf. This is a cultivation method for the embryonic breathing realm, the Azure Origin Chakra Nourishment Method. First, memorize it here in the courtyard. Remember, you must never pass it to anyone else. Yes, Liu Rushuan answered happily. She received the tablet respectfully with both hands and held it carefully against her chest. Meals will be delivered each day during the morning and afternoon watches. If you need anything, tell the person who brings them and have it sent here. Li Tongya picked up the teapot and spoke while pouring tea. After filling 2 small cups, he continued, I am not usually in this courtyard, but I will come during those same hours to cast spirit rain over the fields. If you have questions about cultivation, you may ask me then. Liu Rushuan nodded repeatedly. Li Tongya smiled and asked gently, Have your clothes and belongings been sent from home? They have, she replied. Then clean the eastern room and live there. Cultivate diligently. Until you reach the profound Sanary chakra, you are not to leave the courtyard. Have you ever attended school? The question came suddenly. I studied a little when I was young. I can recognize some characters. Then I will not need to teach you one character at a time. Read through the manual first. If there is anything you do not understand, come and ask me. Liu Rujuan repeatedly agreed, then held the tablet before her and began reading it line by line. Watching her lower her head over the Azure Origin Chakra Nourishment Method, Li Tongya took a sip of tea and thought idly. She has only just arrived in Li Jing Village and is confined within this courtyard. For the next few years, there should be no need to fear the art leaking outside. While he was thinking, loud laughter sounded beyond the gate, and someone pushed the courtyard door open. "Third brother, what brings you here?" Li Tongya spoke in surprise. Then he saw Li Qiuyang following uneasily behind Li Xiangping. Li Xiangping explained everything about the spirit plant. Li Tongya was naturally astonished, and he began paying even closer attention to the boy. After discussing the matter, the brothers took Li Yesheng and several sturdy village men into the rear mountain. Late autumn had already arrived. The mountain was bleak and withered, fallen leaves drifting over the ground. The wild beasts had fattened themselves for winter and hidden away in preparation for the cold. Because Li Jing Village possessed a rich and fertile reed marsh, its people had never shown much interest in the rear mountain. Fish and meat came plentifully from the wetlands. Why risk their lives against wild beasts deep in the forest? For generations, the villagers had only gathered firewood from the woods near the mountain's foot, cutting fast-growing shrubs and small trees for cooking. They ventured higher only when they needed timber to build houses. As a result, the narrow path into the rear mountain was choked with thorns and vines. Li Qiuyang no longer remembered the route clearly, so several village men moved ahead with machetes, hacking open a trail while Li Xiangping and Li Tongya followed behind. "Second brother, there is something I do not understand." Li Xiangping held Li Qiuyang by the hand and looked back at Li Tongya. "What is it?" "Si Yuanbai drew a boundary for our family. Beyond it lies the territory of other clans. Before the Li family rose, any one of those families could have sent a single embryonic breathing cultivator here. Who among the mortals would have dared resist? Then why have our people farmed this land for 200 years, without a single cultivator coming to claim it? Did they truly disdain the mortals here so completely?" Li Tongya rubbed his chin, his expression grave. "I have considered that as well. From what Si Yuanbai said, this region lacked spiritual qi for several hundred years. With no cultivation resources here, no cultivator would willingly waste time guarding it. Second, Mount Dali lies beside us. Its ranges stretch endlessly, and who knows how many demons and monsters hide among them. This place is remote and could never be as comfortable as living in a commandery city." Li Xiangping nodded, though his expression grew unpleasant. He lowered his voice. "Brother, there is another possibility, and it is worse. Qingchi Sect may be immensely powerful, but it controls only a quarter of Yue. Could it truly have no formidable enemies around it? I fear our Li family lies at the very edge of Qingchi Sect's territory. When two villages fight over water, no one willingly plants crops along the disputed bank. The same principle applies here. According to Xu Wenshan, the state of Wu lies to the south. Wu and Yue frequently clash, so the immortal sects behind them are unlikely to enjoy friendly relations." A chill passed through Li Tongya. His expression darkened. "We were careless. Tomorrow we will send people to investigate the lands around the Guli Road. Understanding the Li family's position must become our first priority. I only hope we are not crops that Qingchi Sect has casually planted along the border." Li Xiangping gave a bitter laugh. At that moment, Li Yesheng and the village men ahead of them called out, drenched in sweat. "Immortal masters, the snake is enormous!" Dark brown patterns crossed the giant serpent's body. It was as thick as the waist of an 8 or 9-year-old child. Its coils wrapped around a massive banyan tree. Its vertical golden pupils regarded Li Tongya and the others with cold hostility. "It truly is enormous!" Li Tongya sounded astonished, but his hands did not slow. Even before the words left his mouth, a hazy golden light had already gathered in his palm. The serpent hissed, its scarlet tongue flickering. It opened its jaws and suddenly spewed a dense cloud of black smoke. The golden light struck first. It shot straight toward the brown-patterned serpent's chin and knocked its head violently aside. The black smoke poured instead over the great tree beside it. The banyan cracked instantly. Its lush branches and leaves were corroded away in moments, dissolving into black liquid that dripped onto the soil. Even the trunk, thick enough for 2 men to encircle, lost a deep layer of wood. "Hiss!" Li Yesheng and the others recoiled in terror, looking as though they might turn and flee at any moment. "Keep your eyes on it, and retreat slowly." Having saved Li Yesheng and the village men from the serpent's attack, Li Tongya shook his head gravely and spoke in a low voice. The serpent did not pursue as they withdrew. It remained coiled around the banyan, staring coldly after them. Only once the tree had vanished from sight did Li Qiuyang speak timidly. "The fruit tree is directly behind it. There is no hurry." Li Tongya waved a hand and instructed Li Yesheng, "Summon the village men. Have every household bring long poles and iron shovels. Bows would be even better. Gather all the bows and arrows you can find and bring everyone up the mountain. Yes, Li Qiuyang acknowledged the order and hurried back down with several men. Li Xiangping patted Li Qiuyang on the shoulder. You must have encountered the serpent while it was away hunting. Not only did you survive, you even gained a fortunate opportunity. Return to the courtyard and cultivate. There is nothing more for you to do here. Cold sweat covered Li Qiuyang's face. He quickly agreed and descended the mountain. Li Xiangping found a slab of blue stone and sat down beside Li Tongya. That serpent's scales are remarkably hard. A golden light art only shattered a few beneath its jaw. From its appearance, it is merely a lesser demon in the embryonic breathing realm, and its intelligence has not yet awakened. No matter how hard a beast's scales are, what use will they be? Li Tongya answered calmly while carefully studying the surrounding terrain. Before long, the sturdy men of Li Jing Village began arriving. Hearing that they were to kill a demon, they were both frightened and excited, creeping cautiously behind Li Yisheng. After inspecting the ground, Li Tongya sought out Lu Linfeng. Uncle, I heard the Lu family used a pit trap to kill a wild boar last year. For a serpent of this size, how large should the pit be? Lu Linfeng hesitated and asked carefully. I heard this serpent is a demon and cannot be judged by ordinary creatures. What if it can fly? Of course it cannot fly. Use your past experience and make the trap twice as large. Li Xiangping answered, thinking privately. If it could fly, none of us would still be alive. Then this will be easy. Reassured by Li Xiangping's words, Lu Linfeng thumped his chest and began directing the men as they dug. He pointed here and there with great authority, looking perfectly at home in command. Lu Linfeng had suppressed himself for quite some time. In the past, though the Li family was powerful, it still respected the Lu clan's position and consulted him whenever important matters arose in the village. Now that the Li family had absorbed the surrounding settlements, how could Lu Linfeng still step forward and issue orders as he once had? The restraint had left him deeply frustrated. At last, with a task of his own, his spirits immediately revived. This cannot continue forever. The Lu family must find a place for itself beneath the Li family's protection, or sooner or later we will decline. Lu Linfeng continued directing the work while these thoughts played through his mind. Li Tongya had no idea how much drama was unfolding inside his uncle's head. He and Li Xiangping were busy enchanting arrows with the golden light art. If the spell was not immediately released, it would remain upon an object for 6 or 7 two-hour periods, more than enough time to kill the serpent. With their current reserves, each brother could apply the art more than 10 times. Whenever their mana ran dry, they sat down to regulate their breathing. By the time the villagers finished digging the pit, concealed the fresh soil, and covered the trap with dry leaves, the brothers had also recovered. The village men formed their ranks. Those with long poles stood in front, while the archers remained behind. Each archer held an arrow enchanted with the golden light art as they carefully advanced toward the serpent. The first men had only just reached the great banyan when they cried out together. That serpent is terrifying! The creature remained coiled around the tree, its bright golden pupils chilling the hearts of everyone who saw them. It opened its jaws and immediately released another dense cloud of black smoke. The men in the front rank had already been warned. They threw down their poles and retreated at once. The smoke merely corroded a patch of dry leaves and several of the long wooden staves. Streams of light streaked forward behind the smoke yet arrived first. The arrows, sharpened by the golden light art, drove one after another through the serpent's brown scales. After being harassed again and again, the creature finally erupted in fury. Hissing wildly, it abandoned the banyan and slithered toward the villagers. The men in front scattered instantly. Li Tongya and Li Xiangping formed seals and launched repeated golden light arts, drawing pained shrieks from the demon. Its vertical golden pupils locked upon the two brothers, and it rushed directly at them. Rather than panic, the brothers were delighted. Watching it wind along the mountainside toward them, they shouted. As the serpent advanced, the earth suddenly gave way beneath it. Its head nearly plunged straight into the enormous pit hidden beneath the leaves. Its body, however, was too long to fall entirely at once. The serpent quickly raised its head and hooked it over the opposite edge of the trap, looking as though it might pull itself free. A shout rang from the cliff above. A group of village men appeared, straining together against a massive blue stone. Down! The boulder crashed into the serpent's back. Tendons snapped and bones shattered. The brown-patterned creature released a violent hiss as it was crushed against the bottom of the pit. Its head remained raised, half its body bent into a U shape, but it could no longer move. Ha 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 ha! Behind the crowd, Lu Linfeng burst into triumphant laughter and nodded with satisfaction at the success of his masterpiece. Attack! Li Yisheng roared. The villagers seized sharpened bamboo poles and thrust them down into the pit with all their strength. The serpent's scales were hard, but even they could not withstand the torment of more than a dozen strong men stabbing without pause. The villagers continued for nearly half an hour, stopping only when the bamboo shafts in their hands had been dyed red. After confirming again and again that the serpent was truly dead, the mountain erupted with cheers. Everyone was immensely proud, crowding together to discuss how they would haul the creature from the pit and carry it back to the village. Leaving Lu Linfeng to oversee the work, Tongya and Li Xiangping quietly led Li Qiuyang and several trusted men around the great banyan. The grass behind it was littered with white bones. Li Qiuyang sighed. Yecheng climbed the rear mountain several years ago and never returned. He must have encountered the serpent while it was hunting and been swallowed. Li Xiangping nodded with perfect composure. Li Tongya, meanwhile, stared gravely at the small tree bearing 5 crimson fruits. He turned to Li Qiuyang. Bring men to guard this place. No one is to approach. That night, Li Jing Village blazed with torchlight. Laughter sounded from every household, and the children ran through the streets as though celebrating the new year. Lu Linfeng led the villagers in building a great bonfire on an open patch of ground. Everyone gathered around it, laughing and talking about the terrifying serpent. The men boasted proudly of their bravery, their faces flushed red beneath the firelight. By dusk, Li Qiuyang needed 10 men to drag the serpent down the mountain. After much effort, they stripped away its scales. The village women sliced the flesh thinly, filling 3 large basins, then marinated it with scallions, ginger, and wine before placing it beside the fire. Every household brought meat and vegetables of its own, roasting food and talking around the bonfire. Li Mutian had never enjoyed noisy gatherings and could not be bothered to leave the family courtyard. Li Xiangping and Li Tongya therefore left men guarding the spirit plant and descended the mountain ahead of the others. Our knowledge is shallow and we cannot identify this spirit plant. We know neither its uses nor its dangers. We should leave it untouched for now. In a few days we can find a cultivator market and make discreet inquiries. Seated before the bonfire, Li Xiangping turned toward his elder brother. Naturally, Li Tongya nodded and glanced at the 3 wooden basins. He pinched up a piece of serpent meat. It had been sliced as thin as a cicada's wing and was nearly transparent. Smiling, he said, "The secret records of Xianxia states, beasts, birds, insects, and scaled creatures that become demons swallow the essences of sun and moon. Spiritual qi nourishes their flesh and blood. Consuming them strengthens the body, benefits the organs, and enriches the blood and vitality. Father should eat more of it. We sent a portion to the courtyard long ago." Li Xiangping skewered a strip of serpent meat and held it over the flames. It sizzled as he continued. The gallbladder was as large as 2 fists. That has also been sent home and placed in wine. While the brothers spoke, Li Qiuyang arrived with Xu Wenshan. Li Tongya raised his head and arched a brow, signaling for them to explain their purpose. "You wish to establish trade along the Guli Road and sell the village's surplus goods outside?" After hearing Xu Wenshan's confident proposal, Li Xiangping and Li Tongya exchanged thoughtful looks. The plan happened to coincide with ideas they had already considered. After several breaths of thought, Li Tongya said, "Not bad. You and Lu Linfeng will oversee the matter together. Use your own followers as the core, and draw the remaining manpower from the Liu family for now." Xu Wenshan was overjoyed, but Li Xiangping spoke in a grave voice. "There are other cultivation families along the Guli Road. We cannot open trade without first speaking to them. Send men to investigate carefully and make contact. Mark every inhabited place along the road and produce a proper map. This subordinate understands." Xu Wenshan listened carefully before thumping his chest. "The main family may rest assured. Old Su traveled the roads of Lixia for more than 10 years. I know every skill needed for such journeys. If I had traveled the Guli Road before, I could draw the map for you this very moment." He hurried away again to gather his men. As Li Tongya ate the serpent meat, he addressed Li Yesheng in a low voice. "Uncle has little to occupy him at home, so it is better that he goes out and handles some affairs. Xu Wenshan is crafty and cunning. Though more than half the people assigned to him will come from the Liu family, I still need you to keep an eye on him. Do not allow that man to grow too powerful." "I understand," Li Yesheng answered quickly. After following the 2 brothers for so long, he had become increasingly capable. He silently resolved to remain wary of Xu Wenshan. "Tomorrow, select several trustworthy men. Build a small enclosure around the banyan tree on the mountain so no outsiders can approach it." Li Xiangping finished and waved him away. Li Yesheng withdrew without needing further instruction. Li Tongya sighed softly. "If our Li family had enough people to guard every important place, we would not need to plan against everyone from every direction." Li Xiangping lowered his head and ate, his hand tightening silently around the bamboo skewer. "We should simply visit a cultivator market. Buying a map there would be effortless. But our cultivation is still shallow, and we know nothing of the market's dangers. We cannot take that risk." "Do not worry." Seeing his brother's gloomy expression, Li Tongya laughed heartily. "Chejing has entered the sect. Our spirit seedlings are growing well. The clan has gained another disciple with a spiritual orifice, and now we have discovered this spirit plant. The Li family is already rising. If we become too greedy and refuse to be satisfied, we may instead invite disaster. Li Xiangping froze at those words. After a moment, he nodded thoughtfully and smiled. I will remember elder brother's teaching. Ice Li Chengfu had now moved close to the main household, and his life had changed completely. Not only had he returned to the Li clan, but everyone in Li Jing Village who mentioned him praised his extraordinary good fortune. He did not swagger through the village like a tyrant, but at the very least he now carried himself with dignity. Whoever saw Li Chengfu treated him with respect and addressed him courteously. The old elders of the Yi clan were naturally red-eyed with jealousy. Even Liu Linfeng, who once would not have spared him a glance, now smiled and called him Chengfu whenever they met. Even so, Li Chengfu did not dare put on airs before Liu Linfeng. The man was, after all, the maternal uncle of the main line. He might have fallen from influence for the moment, but who could say he would not rise again one day? Sure enough, Liu Linfeng had been out of favor for only a few months before a single order from the main family placed dozens of men under his command. He now hurried back and forth across the villages, drawing some strange map, with a smile so broad it seemed ready to fall from his face. Sitting in a small village wine shop, Li Chengfu leisurely sipped from his cup and chuckled as he watched Liu Linfeng spin from task to task like a top. Your assignment does not look easy at all, Liu Linfeng. How could it possibly be more comfortable than my life? Brother Fu, tell us, what miraculous methods do immortals possess? Why do all of you run into the mountain every day? Li Chengfu looked at the idlers crowded around him, their eyes bright with gossip. He snorted coldly, swept his sleeve, and raised his voice. Shut your mouths! All of you, move aside! Li Chengfu was no fool. The Li family had few people, and although he belonged to a collateral branch, he was already considered one of their trusted men. He and his two sons were helping construct the courtyard on the mountain. Li Yesheng had expressly ordered them to keep the matter secret. Would Li Chengfu truly be stupid enough to betray his own family merely to attract attention? The middle-aged man had calculated everything clearly. His son possessed a spiritual orifice and carried Li blood. Apart from Li Tongya, Li Xiangping, and Li Yesheng, who currently held authority, the fourth seat in the clan would surely belong to Li Qiuyang. Liu Roxuan was an outsider. How could she compete? Now he and his 3 children, 1 cultivator and 2 mortals, had all taken the surname Li. The interests of the Li family were the interests of Li Qiuyang, and therefore the interests of Li Chengfu. How could he sell out his own household? I have work to do. Li Chengfu waved a hand, drained his wine, and strode proudly away from the crowd of idlers. The courtyard on the mountain was being built on a large scale, and the deadline was short. He had no time to waste here. At the summit of Qingwei Peak stood an exquisitely carved pavilion, its doors opening onto clouds and its windows framed by drifting mist. Warm dawn light poured across the building, covering everything in gold. Li Chejing sat upon a blue stone before the pavilion. He slowly breathed out a stream of pure qi, opened his eyes, and gazed across the endless sea of clouds. His elegant brows rose. The Azure Essence chakra is finally complete. The origin of our family's cultivation art is clearly extraordinary. What it produces is not ordinary Azure Essence mana, but Moonlight Azure Essence mana. It is denser, more stable, and far superior to that of common methods. He rose and straightened his blue robe, then entered the pavilion and removed a gleaming sword from the wall. Cold light flashed along its blade. With a turn of his wrist, he traced a graceful blossom of sword light through the air. I have also entered the threshold of the profound water sword art senior brother gave me. A third-grade art normally cannot be properly controlled until the Qi refining realm, but fortunately the method itself is straightforward and remarkably easy to learn. I wonder whether father is in good health, and whether my brothers have formed their celestial whirl chakras. I have heard that Qingchi Sect in the west has recently begun stirring. The borders of the two powers meet across thousands of miles. I do not know whether the Li family will be affected. With these worries in his mind, Li Chejing lost all desire to practice the sword. He leaned over the desk and idly turned through a jade slip, though his thoughts had already flown thousands of miles back to his family. Junior brother! A cheerful call sounded from outside. A broad-browed, bright-eyed man entered the pavilion. It was his senior brother, Xiao Wanxi. He smiled at Li Chejing across the desk. Junior brother! Guess what good news I have brought you? Senior brother, stop teasing me. Li Chejing shook his head with a helpless smile, put away the jade slip, and adopted an attentive expression. Master has ordered me to travel to Lixia Commandery on official business. Xiao Yuanxi raised his brows, then asked, Do you have a letter for your family? Yes, I do. Thank you, senior brother. You are truly the best. Li Chejing was instantly overjoyed and thanked him repeatedly. He brought out brush, ink, paper, and inkstone and began writing at once. Take your time. Give it to me tonight. I's dawn was approaching when Li Xiangping slowly emerged from meditation. My sea of qi is finally full. After another half-year of cultivation, I should be able to attempt forming the Celestial World Chakra. By his reckoning, Li Xiangping had been stalled before the Celestial World Chakra for nearly 4 years. His cultivation speed was frighteningly slow. By now, Chejing had probably already begun breaking through to the Azure Essence Chakra. When he stepped outside, Tianyun was sitting in the sunlight near the doorway. She started to rise when she saw him. Wait moved slowly. Li Xiangping hurriedly waved her down and supported her arm. You are carrying a child. You must be extremely careful and avoid disturbing the pregnancy. Tianyun smiled gently and looked into his eyes. Ever since I became pregnant, my body has never felt quite right. She yawned, then continued with a trace of concern. I hear that Qiuyang's cultivation is advancing astonishingly quickly. I often wonder, if our child is born without a spiritual orifice, then 100 years from now the collateral branch may be stronger than the main line. I fear that would not be a blessing for the Li family. Li Xiangping froze for a moment, then affectionately stroked her hair and laughed. Do not worry. Our child will possess a spiritual orifice as well. Leave the affairs of the family to me. You need not trouble yourself with them. As for Li Qiuyang, all he has done is form the profound scenery chakra earlier than expected. There is no need to pay him too much attention. Seeing the certainty in her husband's expression, Tianyun leaned softly against his chest. As long as you have considered it, I am relieved. The two were sharing their quiet moment when Liu Linfeng rushed into the front courtyard. The instant he saw them, he stopped short. His face flushed, and for a moment he seemed unsure whether to advance or retreat. Tianyun gave a small laugh and withdrew with Madame Ren's support. Li Xiangping stared at Liu Linfeng in surprise. Uncle, what has made you so anxious? One of the Liu youths under my command left Lidao Pass and traveled several dozen li along the Guli Road. He happened upon a farmer hunting in the wilderness. The man was extremely wary and fled as soon as he saw our people. My boy did not dare pursue him. He memorized the location and returned to report. Liu Linfeng spoke breathlessly. Li Xiangping frowned and was about to respond when another figure rushed through the gate. It was Li Yesheng, his face flushed and his breathing ragged from running the entire length of the village. Master, a messenger has come from Lichuan Pass. An immortal claiming to be a cultivator of the Wan family, a vassal of Qingchi Sect, has arrived to pay a visit. This is bad. He must have followed that boy's trail here. Liu Linfeng slapped his thigh in regret, then struck himself across the face. Xing rubbed between his brows and released a long breath. Do not panic. He also serves beneath Qingchi Sect. He is unlikely to attack the moment he arrives. Looking at those gathered around him, he asked, Where is second brother? The immortal master went up the mountain early this morning and has not yet returned. Uncle, go up and explain everything to him. Tell him to remain on the rear mountain and not come down. Yesheng, you will accompany me to Lidao Pass. Liu Linfeng answered at once and hurried toward the mountain. Li Xiangping took Li Yesheng and several village guards from Li Jing along the country road toward Lidao Pass. When they reached the settlement, they encountered one of Xu Wenshan's men. As they walked, Li Yesheng questioned him. What has the visitor said? The immortal master is very quiet. He has been sitting in our leader's courtyard without saying more than a few words. Mostly, he keeps his eyes closed and regulates his breathing. The man answered calmly. By the time he finished speaking, Li Xiangping and the others had reached the gate. Xiangping straightened his robes, stepped forward, and looked toward the figure seated in the place of honor. The visitor appeared very young, perhaps still in his teens. He had delicate features and wore a long robe of pale moon-white cloth. At that moment, he opened his eyes and looked toward Li Xiangping. This one is Li Xiangping, a cultivator under Qingchi Sect. Li Xiangping had not yet formed the Jade Capital Chakra, and therefore possessed no spiritual sense with which to measure the youth's strength. He could only cup his hands and introduce himself humbly. To his surprise, the young man seemed to release a breath of relief. He immediately rose and bowed respectfully. This one is Wan Yuankai of the Wan family, also under Qingchi Sect. Greetings, Patriarch Li. I would not dare accept that title. I am merely a junior cultivator of the Li family. My father is the head of our household. Li Xiangping hurriedly waved his hands. Seeing how modest the visitor was, the weight in his chest eased, and he smiled. A few days ago, my father heard that the master of Qingwei Peak had assigned people to guard the western reaches of the Guli Road. He was delighted and sent this junior westward to investigate, hoping to make friends with our new neighbors. I happened to encounter people from your village and took the liberty of coming here. Please forgive the intrusion. Wan Yuankai appeared genuinely enthusiastic. After offering a courteous apology, he smiled. My father also instructed me to bring a gift. Li Xiangping was immediately surprised. Wan Yuankai's smile was bright and eager, but Xiangping's thoughts moved swiftly. Why is the Wan family showing such excessive warmth? I must remain cautious. His smile did not change. He cupped his hands and repeatedly shook his head. Your honored father is far too generous. I cannot accept this. Wan Yuankai shook his head and drew a small pinewood box from his sleeve. He lifted its polished lid. Nestled upon silk inside was a blue-white fruit. A glossy, horn-like layer covered its surface like serpent scales. Blue and white blended across the fruit, reflecting specks of sunlight and making it remarkably beautiful. Wan Yuankai looked somewhat embarrassed as he lowered his voice. My Wan family faces difficulties both within and without. Each year, our income fails to cover our expenses. This Songyu fruit offers some benefit when forming the radiant lure chakra. It is only a modest object, but Brother Li must accept it, or I will have difficulty reporting to my father. Seeing Li Xiangping studying the fruit, Wan Yuankai suddenly understood and hurriedly explained. Use a small knife to cut through the outer skin, then drink the juice within. Li Xiangping continued examining it while his thoughts turned rapidly. If the Wan family is truly struggling from every direction, why reveal that to me? Would that not invite others to take advantage of them? Forget it. Whatever game he is playing, I will first see where this leads. Then I will accept. Refusing again would be disrespectful. Li Xiangping laughed. Li Yesheng stepped forward, accepted the box, and carefully carried it away. Only then did Xiangping's tone become serious. There is one matter in which I hope to trouble Brother Wan. Just call me Wankai, please. Speak freely. Wan Wankai quickly waved a hand. Our Li family has only recently settled into this position and knows nothing of the surrounding cultivation clans. Would Brother Wan be willing to answer a few questions? Of course. Wan Yuankai nodded. Li Yesheng brought out paper and brush. Rolling up his sleeve, Wan Yuankai drew a thin line across the sheet. This is the Guli Road. He drew a circle at its center and wrote the character for Li within it. Li Xiangping nodded, took another brush, dipped it in ink, and drew one circle above the Li family and another below, labeling them Wangyu Lake and Mount Dali. Our Li family rests against Mount Dali, faces Wangyu Lake, and has the Guli Road passing through our lands. Wan Yuankai nodded and drew a smaller circle east of the Li family. My Wan family lies here, to your east. Then he drew a much larger circle above the Wan family and spoke solemnly. This is the Ji clan of Qingchi Sect. Li Xiangping's heart tightened. Exactly, Qingchi Sect is the Immortal sect of the state of Shu to the north. Its strength is comparable to our Qingchi Sect. Wangyu Lake is vast. Cross its central waters and continue north, and you will reach Tangdao Mountain, the mountain gate of Qingchi Sect. The Ji family is one of Qingchi Sect's subordinate powers. Li Xiangping nodded for him to continue, though he smiled bitterly inside. The very thing we feared has appeared. For more than 10 years, Qingchi Sect and Qingchi Sect have constantly clashed. The two sects have not openly gone to war, but more than 10 cultivation families along the border have already been destroyed, and tens of thousands of mortals have been displaced. Even now, both sides are merely testing one another. Unease covered Wan Wankai's face, as though he were finally voicing a fear that had tormented him for years. The Ji family has repeatedly attacked us and violated Wan territory. Our family has suffered beyond words. Their patriarch, Ji Dongqi, reached the Qi refining realm several years ago. My father only recently broke through to the Jade capital chakra and is no match for him. Whenever our spirit rice ripens, the Ji family's people cover their faces, disguise themselves as wandering cultivators, and raid our villages. For the past several years, we have been forced to hide upon the mountain and watch helplessly while they plunder the harvest. By the time he finished, Wan Yuankai's eyes had reddened and his fists were tightly clenched. Li Xiangping now understood Wan Yuankai's purpose. His expression became somewhat strained. My Li family is weak and our strength is limited. I fear we cannot offer much assistance. Seeing the grief and indignation on Wan Yuankai's face, Li Xiangping quickly asked, how many cultivators remain in the Wan family? Wan Yuankai paused. He looked hesitantly at Li Xiangping, then gritted his teeth. My father stands at the peak of the Jade capital chakra. I have only recently formed the Azure Essence chakra. There are also 2 juniors in the family, who have just completed the Profound Senori chakra. As for the Ji family, besides that old thief in the Qi refining realm, they have 2 cultivators at the Celestial World chakra, and 1 at the Radiant Lure chakra. They should also have several at the Profound Senori chakra, though those have never taken part in the raids. Li Xiangping listened with some confusion. A member of the sect once told me that if enemies attack, we can use the Jade Seal to request aid. Would the sect not solve your crisis simply by sending a Foundation Establishment cultivator? How could we possibly summon someone at Foundation Establishment? Wan Wankai nearly shouted. His teeth clenched and both fists tightened in fury. Even after activating the Jade Seal, it takes at least 4 hours for a Qi refining cultivator from the city to arrive. By then, everything is over. The spirit rice has already been taken. Worse, if we call for help again and again, we will offend the very cultivators sent to rescue us for no reason." Seeing that Li Xiangping was about to speak, Wan Yuankai hurriedly continued. "My father sent me to visit because he hopes our two families can form an alliance and borrow the strength of your honored clan." Li Xiangping sighed inwardly. Since Wan Yuankai had finally stated his request, there was no longer any reason to draw out more information. He smiled bitterly. "It is not that we are unwilling. We truly cannot help. The Li family has very few members and entered the immortal path only last year. My father had 4 sons. My eldest brother died young. My youngest brother's cultivation is high, but he has already joined the Immortal Sect. My remaining brother and I have shallow cultivation. Neither of us is even your equal. What could we use to resist the Ji family? Does your honored father not remain?" Wan Yuankai looked at him with eager expectation. "To tell you the truth, my father is only a mortal. That is impossible. How could a mortal father 3 children with spiritual orifices? My own father stands at the Jade Capital Chakra, yet he had 17 children before producing me alone." Suspicion immediately appeared on Wan Yuankai's face. Li Xiangping was inwardly horrified. His thoughts flashed, and without the slightest hesitation, he followed the path the other man had unknowingly offered. "My father fought a powerful enemy years ago and had his cultivation destroyed." Wan Yuankai's expression changed at once. Embarrassment crossed his face. "I was presumptuous. Your honored father must once have established the foundation of the great Tao." It was Yuankai who spoke without restraint. He sat back in a daze, his eyes once again filled with worry. Li Xiangping was equally shaken. Wan Yuankai's outburst had sent cold sweat pouring down his back, and he had nearly lost control of his expression. So the higher a cultivator's realm, the greater the chance that his children will possess spiritual orifices. I nearly exposed everything through such an insignificant detail. Once his composure returned, he looked at the dispirited Wan Yuankai and asked, "What lies at the end of the Guli Road, west of our Li family's territory? Does Brother Wan know anything of that region?"
"The Western Guli Road."
Wan Yuankai froze again. He studied the rough map thoughtfully before replying. "Mount Dali slopes toward the west. If one follows the Guli Road in that direction, the route gradually enters the mountains. I have never heard of human settlements along that stretch. However, I have heard." "Heard what?" Li Xiangping asked quickly. "My father once said that our ancestors explored westward. They encountered the Mountain Yue people beyond the western reaches of the road." "The Mountain Yue?" Only after extracting every piece of information Wan Yuankai possessed did Li Xiangping see the dejected young man off. He carefully stored the rough map, then returned to Li Jing Village with Li Yesheng. Thanks to the annual field taxes paid by the surrounding settlements, the Li family could support a growing number of craftsmen. Most worked on the small courtyards being constructed on the rear mountain. When those projects were less urgent, they repaired and improved Li Jing Village itself. After more than half a year of construction, the village had been transformed. Carefully cut slabs of blue stone had been fitted together into a road stretching from the Li residence all the way to the village gate. It had become Li Jing's most important thoroughfare, carrying the influence of the ruling center outward through all the surrounding settlements. The wealthier households of the village began imitating the Li family's tiled roofs and blue brick walls, rebuilding their own thatched cottages and mud structures. Lu Linfeng and the other members of the Lu family did not dare use blue bricks. Instead, they chose the lesser white bricks and sealed the gaps with gray mortar. The result was not as striking as blue brick with white mortar, but it was still grand enough to command respect.